Alison Centofante and Katherine Beck Johnson, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Maren.
I'm so excited to have both of you here, both experts in your field, both moms who have little ones running around out there and little ones waiting in the womb, ready to join us, hopefully, in a world that is a post-Roe world, and both of you using the gifts and talents that God gave you to fight for the unborn. Today, we want to talk about Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health. Katherine, you're a legal expert. Alison, you were the MC of the rally and have been a pro-life activist for many years. We'd love to hear both of your perspectives on where America could go in a post-Roe world. First, Katherine, could you give us an overview of what Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health was all about?
Dobbs is an incredibly consequential case. It is the biggest abortion case of our generation, the biggest abortion case since Casey in 1992. And Mississippi passed a 15-week abortion ban. This is by no means a radical pro-life law, but it was struck down as it is unconstitutional under Roe, which prevents any sort of pre-viability ban on abortion. And this was struck down at the district court and the Fifth Circuit as unconstitutional. Mississippi then petitioned the Supreme Court to take the case. Now, the Supreme Court could have just issued a statement saying this is clearly unconstitutional under Roe. We agree with the Fifth Circuit, but they took the case, signaling they might be willing to do something to alter abortion jurisprudence in America. And it was then taken up another notch when Mississippi filed their briefs, and they didn't just simply ask the court to uphold their 15-week ban. They went after Roe. They called Roe out for what it is, a disgrace to our nation, to our constitutional law, and they requested that the court overturn Roe. So therefore, the case now really before the Supreme Court is whether or not Roe should be overturned and abortion should return to the state. So like I said, this is a hugely consequential case, and we look forward to the decision that comes down in hopefully June.
Thank you so much for that, Katherine, and thank God for Attorney General Lynn Finch, who had the courage to ask the Supreme Court to overturn Roe, a decision that we all know was wrongfully decided, a decision that has no basis whatsoever in the Constitution. Alison, you were there on the morning of the oral arguments, and we know you were front and center, out in front, leading the rally. Can you tell us what were some of the highlights from the rally that day?
Well, it was a beautiful morning. I know you were there and Katherine was there. And our, favorite girl right now, Attorney General Lynn Finch, was there. She was the biggest, we were waiting for her to come out of the court and tell us how oral arguments went. But until that moment, until we heard how it went inside the court, we had gathered a diverse group of amazing women. It was an all-female lineup, post-abortive women, women who chose life in hard circumstances, legislators, lawyers, working moms, moms that stay at home with kids with special needs. It was beautiful. And I have to point out the diversity and the size. The diversity of the lineup and those in attendance was amazing. I just think the pro-life movement has grown so big, this big tent. Like, if you can understand prenatal development, if you can join us in fighting for the right to life, then join us. We don't agree on all things. There are people of all political backgrounds there. I'm sure we'd have plenty to talk about and debate. But the one thing that we agreed on was that life is always worth protecting and fighting for, and that Roe has got to go. And so we heard from a diverse group of speakers, and the size of the crowd, Mary, was amazing. It was the largest event at the Supreme Court I've ever been a part of. And as I've talked to pro-life leaders who are decades older than us, they said, yeah, no, that was the largest gathering of pro-lifers at the Supreme Court they've ever seen. So I think that it signals to me that the pro-life movement is ready for Roe to go. We know we have the resources available to support women. We know what's going to happen in our states, and that finally, if the court does the right thing, we as voters will be able to speak into this at a more local level and hold our representatives accountable when they do the wrong thing, instead of us fighting so hard, and so many fighting so hard for pro-life legislation, only to hit the brick wall of Roe v. Wade's precedent.
It certainly was an exciting day, Alison. You know, it had a very much a family reunion type feel to it. Everyone who was there was excited at the possibility of life being protected in America. Katherine, when we heard what was going on inside the court, we got even more excited. Can you give a little bit of an overview of what happened in the oral arguments?
Response from the pro-life movement after oral arguments was just filled with excitement. There was so much to celebrate. And while it's hard to always read the tea leaves of what the justices will do from oral arguments, we took a lot of encouragement from the questions being asked, especially from Justice Roberts, who has become quite the swing vote. He really talked about and probed, well, isn't America an outlier in our abortion jurisprudence? Why are we just in the camp of North Korea and China in our protections of the unborn? Justice Kavanaugh, who's also become another swing vote, said himself, oh, well, shouldn't this just be left up to the states? He said that in response to a growing movement within the pro-life movement that the unborn are actually protected under the 14th Amendment and that the Constitution forbids abortion and that this should not be left up to the states. While it's clear that the court will not rule that way, and Justice Kavanaugh made it clear that he would not rule, he did not feel comfortable holding that opinion. Might be fine returning it to the states, which is what Mississippi was asking, and which is exactly what would be a huge win for the pro-life movement in the Dobbs case. So we really particularly look to the swing voters on the court and what they were saying. And then Justice Alito, who basically closed it out, talking to the United States Solicitor General Elizabeth, who was, of course, advocating that the Mississippi law be struck down. And as she was continuously talking about the rights of the woman, he said boldly, well, doesn't the fetus have an interest in living? And I thought that was just so profound that here we had a justice willing to say, what about the rights of the unborn child? So while it was encouraging listening to the swing voters, saying things such as, shouldn't this be left up to the states? It was also encouraging listening to what we consider the consistently conservative voters saying the unborn have an interest in living. So it was an overall very exciting day at the court. A lot can happen between now and the opinion in probably June. So we ask for a lot of prayers for the justices to have the courage to do the right thing.
And what a beautiful sentiment from Justice Alito. What a beautiful truth. Doesn't the fetus, doesn't the unborn child have an interest in living? Alison, I have heard you talk before about the energy and the joy from the pro-life movement. And you've said, I can understand why people get up every day to fight for life, because you're fighting for an unborn child. But you've also said, I don't understand why someone would get up each day and fight for the right to an abortion. Alison, can you talk a little bit about the shift that we're seeing in America, the shift that maybe brought us to this point where we are at with Dobbs?
Yeah, great question. That morning was so striking, the difference in the tone and tenor of both rallies. If you've ever been at the Supreme Court on an oral arguments day, it's, left on the left and the more conservatives on the right. And we both have our speakers, and our side was so loving and so empowered. I mean, I'm pregnant. I was surrounded by pregnant women listening to oral arguments or, tweeting out what was going on. So encouraged that finally law would protect the child inside of them. And hopefully with that change in law, society would catch up and protect these children as well. We'd create more friendly workplaces. We'd help moms in need. We would no longer, question unplanned pregnancies. We would support them. But on the other side of it, there was this stark contrast of women that were very upset, very hurt, very angry, making claims that we were kind of joking about internally that, abortion access is religious freedom, and making, connecting the dots, jumping on other bandwagons. The LGBTQ issue came up a lot. You can see there's a lot of them hopping on that bandwagon, but no one actually had a very empowering message of supporting women and moms and families. There were no children there that I saw. There were no dads that I saw. On our rally, we have female legislators with their husband, and babies in tow. It's very empowering to see. So I think the shift that's taking place, Miriam, is that the pro-life movement has been so successful at having a consistent message that women and families should be supported in law and society. And that's really refreshing to a young woman who's in an unplanned pregnancy and scared, because we all need to hear that you can do this. We will be with you. We will stand with you. That's what the pro-life movement says. We will stand with you. The other side says you're on your own. Take care of this and get back to work or get back to whatever you're doing. We want to walk women through pregnancy and motherhood. And you saw that. You saw that at the court, and you're seeing it in the pro-life movement now.
Well, and I love that message of the pro-life movement, that message of, yes, you can, and we will be there to help you every step of the way. Katherine, where can we go from here legally? Where can we go to help mothers make that decision for life? Where in the state legislature? Where at the federal level?
Legally speaking, I think it's so important, if Roe is overturned, to work with your state legislatures. I mean, it's so important what the states are doing. Mississippi was the state that got us here. So it was a state that fought for the unborn that got us to Dobbs. So work with your state legislatures. They're often easier to lobby, to work with, to have them introduce bills outlawing abortion as early as is feasible in your state. That is really what is most important to protect the unborn. And then also work locally with your pregnancy centers. As Alison mentioned, the pro-life movement is willing and on the ground to work with women. Texas's most recent pro-life bill included funding for local pregnancy resources. Include those in your bills. Show that the pro-life movement really truly does care about both the woman and the child in the womb. So it's so important to work with your local legislatures, and also stay tuned for some pro-life bills coming at the federal level in the wake of the Dobbs decision, and work to petition your federal legislatures as well.
Amen to all of that, and hopefully we will soon have a pro-life United States of America. Alison, one final question for you. This pro-life con is all about digital activism. How can our viewers join the pro-life movement or continue to be a part of the pro-life movement through their digital activism?
Yeah, great question. And I'm so glad you asked it, because I wanted to make sure that everyone listening goes to a couple websites and gets plugged in. So go to afterroe.com and find out what will happen in your state if Roe v. Wade is overturned and sent back to the state. So that's afterroe.com, an awesome resource. Go to the bottom of the page, click on the map, and you'll see what abortion law will be like in your state. And then I want you to go to a website called standingwithyou.org. Standingwithyou.org is a great site that shows all of the nonviolent resources for women in your state. So you need to know about Standing With You in case you have someone in your family, friend group that experiences an unplanned pregnancy, but also that you can know, hey, I should be supporting these groups. I can reach out and see if they need anything from me. That's standingwithyou.org. And I will say this is going to make being pro-life very personal for all of us. I take that seriously. I have been working, as you guys have, at National Nonprofits for Life. But now that we are so close to having Roe v. Wade overturned, it's hit me that I need to take this on at a micro level, not just a macro level. So reach out to a group like I did called Embrace Grace. Embrace Grace has a 12-week program for moms. I just want to make sure that they had all they need. And I'm going to be making dinner for like 15 women, expectant moms, for the next 12 weeks, because I want them to gather and have an amazing time being encouraged for life. You can check out groups like Lifeline Christian Services if you're interested in foster care or adoption, setting something up in your church for mom. When Roe v. Wade is overturned, we have to be much more visibly and publicly pro-life. So I want you to get prepared. Pray up, pray for these justices to remain strong, have clarity and conviction for life, that they follow the Constitution and not the way the Constitution was interpreted in 1973 in a wrong way. But also be prepared. Be prepared personally. What's my family doing? What am I doing? What's my church doing? And there's so many ways for you to get plugged into the movement. So if you're into door knocking, check out SBA List. There's so much. And feel free to reach out to me on Twitter, Instagram, or Mary, Katherine. We want to help you get plugged in so that you feel incredibly encouraged in the year ahead.
Alison Centofante, Katherine Beck Johnson, thank you both so much for joining us. You both give me so much hope for the future, and you really embody the words of Mother Teresa, who said, "You can do what I can't do, I can do what you can't do, but together we can do something beautiful for God." Thank you both so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Mary.
Thanks, Mary.